and we can get into it. We're talking about managing, pardon me, managing employees you cannot control. Just a moment, sorry. Okay. Do you see my screen? Please confirm you can see my screen. Is that what's sharing?
Yes, please.
All
Yes, it's
right.
up now.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to put it in slideshow. I hope I can see the charts from here. Okay, I should be able to. All right. So managing talent you cannot control. And this is a very timely conversation. It's just touching on the reality that we have in the new world of work. We've been talking about this new world of work for like a decade now. It was future of work for the longest, and it is now of work. Someone is writing red on my screen, or I don't know if it's just me that is seeing it. Okay, so we can also refer to them as external talents, covering contractors, gig workers, consultants, and all of that. We will look into all of that. And my profile has been read. So I'm going to skip that now. And then we'll look at the different types of workforce that would qualify under this external workforce. We'll look at why we need them, who they are, the value that they add to our organizations, and how we can just cope with control, which is the word that was very interesting in the topic. But let's set a few things as we set context. What does control really mean? Because of time, I want to, as much as possible, manage time, but these were questions that were coming to me. So when we say managing workforce that you cannot control, excuse me, the first question that pops in my mind is, what really is the goal of control? When we say control, we need to be sure that we understand the context, because control can mean so many things. And I would have liked to hear from the room. If you have any thoughts, please share. But what really does this word mean to you? The different perspectives I looked at it would it be in terms of compliance? Would it be in terms of driving accountability? Obviously, when you have an organization and you have people working in the organization, you want to ensure that people are guided. You want to ensure that people are guided, the right policies are guiding what people do, behaviors are controlled. Again, we come to that word. You can control behaviors, you can control expectations, you can drive accountability, you know what to expect in terms of performance, and you're clearly communicating this. But there's another twist to control that at the end of the day, we need to ask ourselves some questions to say, okay, who is really holding the remote control in this context? Because more and more employees, especially in the younger generation, the majority of workforce that we have today, they're no longer going by the rules. They're no longer acting by the rules that we have set. What has changed in the last decade? Because before now, it used to be very clear as to when you hire an employee, you have a set of guidelines that employees have to follow. The employee handbook was a very strong document. You have your HR policies and they're very strong. But nowadays, isn't it our reality that we're starting to soften on some things? We're starting to reduce our rigidity on certain things. We're starting to rethink how we set policies and put policies in place. So what does that say about control? What is the reason that has happened? More and more talents are discovering they have choices. They have options. They don't have to work in your 9 to 5. They can be their own boss. They can work for multiple employers and earn their money. So are you really controlling that employee? Again, it's about context and what this context means to us. And it's important to talk about that context before we get into the crux of the conversation, because that's even what has led us here in the first place. Now, what that means is when we say that in the last decade, what has changed? I remember, I mean, it sounds like cliche, but growing up, like we would say, in the early days, for a lot of us that have worked for more than 10 years or more than 15 years, when you started working, the workplace was different. And I'm sure that we can all speak to that difference that has occurred or that has happened. When you got a job, you were very much conscious of what do the rules say? What are the guidelines? What is the policy? And if you did anything, there was a sanction grid that would speak to how you were, what the consequence of those actions or inactions were. And I think to a very large extent, there was a sense of respect or regard for policies, for governance, and what guides what we have. And things like moonlighting were a thing. Oh, you cannot work for more than one employer. You have to resume at so time. You must be in the office by 8 o'clock or 7:30. You must close by 5 or close by 5:30 or 6 p.m. And there was nothing in a lot of organizations, nothing like remote work. If you're not at work that day, you lose your pay for that day. But over the last decade, especially over the last 5 years since COVID, we can clearly see two things have happened. A new generation has been pumped. There's been an influx of a newer generation of people in the workplace who have a different set of values, a different thinking process, and the rules of the old are no longer working with this generation because they have certain expressions and they want to have certain freedom in quotes at work that the old set of policies doesn't work. Apart from the new generation, the world as we know it, which has impacted work as we know it, has also changed. So with the wave, there's been new wave. Before it was about, oh, people have to be structured, performance expectations have to be structured. Retention was what we were talking about. There was a lot of talk around, oh, what do we do to ensure that we keep our staff? But then it moved into employee experience. What are we doing to make our workplaces, thrive, to enable people thrive? What do we do to ensure that the workplace is bearable? There's a lot of there's workplace safety, there's psychological safety. People enjoy themselves coming to work. There's work-life balance, there's flex time. People don't have to be at work in person. All of these conversations have changed work as we know it, and we have also experienced changes in the people who are coming to work. And that is the reason that has birthed this new idea or this innovative idea of the gig workforce. It has birthed having employees that you cannot control. They're not your staff. Now, they've always been consultants, but in the past years, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, consultants were very highly revered people that have worked for so long. It's after their retirements, they'll now start working as consultants. But now you find someone has just graduated from university today, and tomorrow they're already on LinkedIn. I'm an HR consultant. I see that thing and it's always very hilarious to me because for me, in my head, the way I see it, you're first of all supposed to know a job. You're first of all supposed to have spent time learning a particular field before you want to consult. So when I see people with like a year experience, 2 years experience, maybe from when they graduated, and they're going, oh, I'm a consultant. And I'm asking myself, I don't understand, like, what are you consulting? To what extent are you well versed? Or are you well read? No offense. So if we have younger generation on this call, I'm not hating. I promise me, I'm the first person to encourage you having a strong belief in who you are and your your capacity, being able to sell yourself. I mean, I preach that all the time, but I also understand that there's a place of taking root deepward or taking root inwards, taking depth in something before you attempt to be a solution provider in a certain area. And that's why experience is definitely important in your consulting practice. I know that AI has also helped to a very large extent. You can literally build a consulting deck, a pitch deck, and an entire HR framework just by a few prompts on AI. That's definitely very possible. However, I believe that when we call you a consultant, we're not calling you an AI consultant. You're not just a glorified AI in human form that just knows how to type prompts. Your experience and expertise comes to play. The knowledge you have built over time comes to play. Now, that's not what we're even discussing. Why did I go there? Why I went there is you have a larger generation of people or a larger percentage of people who are going to be external workforce, but they're working for you in the name of consultants, freelancers. Now, freelancers is the new name for self-employed people. In the days of old, a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades ago, you only had a few percentage of people who were working as consultants. And like I said, there were people who were retired. They have spent 30, 40 years working for a multinational or working for government, and they want to set up their own practice. Consulting was a retirement plan. Now, the average, okay, let me not say average, a good percentage of fresh graduates are not looking for paid jobs. They're not looking for 9 to 5. They want to work as freelancers. They want to own their time. So consulting is no longer a retirement plan for people who have worked 40 years in government. Consulting is now a flexible way to get experience, contribute your value to organizations without feeling tied to organizations. So, I mean, without feeling tied to an organization. So that's why it's important to set the context to say, if you're looking for control, and if having control over your workforce is important to you. 1 second. One moment, please. All right, pardon me. If you can still hear me, can you just drop a chat to say you can still hear me? I think my network flinched. I want to be sure that was still good. Oh, where am I? I'm lost. Aha. So when we're setting the context, yeah, thank you. We're setting the context and we're saying control. Control used to be, it's a no-brainer. If you hire a staff in the days of old, a decade ago, you automatically had control on them because they don't have any other place they are going. They don't have another employer. You are the alpha and omega. They hardly even have businesses. Your salary was all they had, their alpha and omega. So you called the shots as the boss. You were president general among the nations. Everything was about you. They would do everything they can to keep their jobs. So control, if you're going to measure it on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe control was 9.5. Look at a decade ago, 2015 and upwards, or 2016, 17 and backwards. But in the world of work of today and in the HR practice of today, if you're going to measure that control, what's left? Out of on a scale of 1 to 10, how much control do you have on your employees? Especially the newer gen. Maybe 2.5. Maybe by in the next 5 years, you will have zero. You never have anything. So I'm saying that even when you talk about control, or in the context of this topic, we don't just want to see them from the lens of gig workers or consultants or freelancers. Even the very people that you call your full-time staff, some of them are full-time on paper. They are not full-time in reality. Some of them, you think you gave them a full-time contract. They are doing other things. Sometimes you know, sometimes you don't know. But where is the flexibility in that? Where is the understanding of how much control you have? Even those that are with you full time, this newer generation of employees know that they have choices. And with the smallest provocation, you will get a letter on your table. It's not even on your table, in your email, because they will not even print it again. You just get some of them will just resign with one line, with 2 words, I quit, and they're off. I was seeing some funny trends on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. That place is super toxic. But they brought some Twitter stuff to Instagram sometime, and they were like, "Oh, what's the most the funniest way you've seen people resign?" And different HR people were talking. People were saying someone would just resign and be like, "It go be," they've gone like, another person will just resign and say, "I don't go," like they've resigned. That's to tell you how is, I don't want to use the word flippant, but how fleeting the control is. So yeah, set context. Are we still together? Someone should confirm if they're still with me. Just put a yes, yes in the chat. Put a yes, 2 yes, yes, yes in the chat if we're, yeah, a consultant is not an AI prompter. Someone said fake it till you make it. Someone said they were learning while in school. So all those young people that will graduate today and they're already consultants tomorrow. So I know that consulting companies, of course, you can graduate from school and join a consulting company as an associate consultant, and you're learning on the job. Yeah, that's a different thing. But that you finish school today, you are self-employed today. You've never worked anywhere, but you're self-employed today and you are a consultant today because you know that you can easily go on AI to get those prompts. It just sometimes it just waters down that name and the role of a consultant, and it just makes it puts a question on who really has the capacity to actually consult and provide advisory service. Okay, let's go on very quickly. Thank you for confirming that you can still hear me. So what's our new workforce reality? Please confirm that this chat is not blocking the screen. You can still see the screen properly. Okay. Like I've been trying to set context around this, we have a new reality of workforce. There's the contingent talent, and it's talking about a shift. And these are some numbers that, points to where we are right now in the world of work and where we are going, right? And the global workforce is already a large number. And by 2028, it's going to be as high as 35 people who are gig workers. And I even think this number, I would like to see more research that speaks to it, but I think that we have more, because even today, if you look at the average organization, again, it differs by organization. If you're in tech or fintech, you know that, or you work in a creative agency, you know that you have the larger percentage, but this is overall when you take the average of everything across all sectors. Manufacturing obviously would also be in that space, but you would have less number of people. But what we are saying is the true reality, based on my own experience and what I've seen, is even the people you call your full-time staff, to what extent are they full-time? To what extent are their options limited to just you? To what extent are they not doing something by the side? To what extent are they not offering their knowledge and experience and capabilities in other areas of interest and other passions? I think the major caveat should be, hope they are not working for your competitor, because I think that's where the line has to be drawn, right? So just some of those numbers around even what the contingent workforce markets, what the value will be by 2031. And 80% of large enterprises would adopt hybrid workforce models. That's for those who are not already there. So it's no longer a trend. It is that this is where the world of work is, and this is where it is going. And this study was done by Deloitte. For the 1% of companies, they plan to increase their contingent worker use, the use of contingent workers. And we'll see the reason why as we move on. The slides are going to, we'll see in coming slides why this is happening. Exactly, this is where I am already. Why are organizations more and more relying on talent that they cannot control? Because before now, you would expect that if you hire staff and you're paying staff, you want to be able to own the decision making. You want to be able to control outcomes. You want to be able to tell your employees what to do and they do it. Obviously, that's a need that every organization has. But why are more organizations looking to tap into that contract workers methodology or model for doing work? Why? Because you have specialized skills on demand. Some talent already know that I'm not going to sit down with one organization when I don't have to be physically there, and I can work for 4 organizations and earn 4 times the amount, even if you will pay me as a freelancer or as a contract employee. I'm going to earn more by the time I combine how much you're paying me, even if you don't pay me as much as you would have paid a full-time staff. By the time I work for 4, 5, 6 organizations, I have better standing. I have more flexibility over my time. I earn more money. And I'm like, if it's you, if they gave you that option, which one would you take? So we can't hate the players. If you want to hate anything, maybe you hate the game, hate the fact that this is where we are right now. That's if you must hate something. But I think there's really nothing to hate, because at the end of the day, the idea is focus on your need as an organization. and find the best talent in the room that can meet that need. If you are looking for who am I going to control, and that's why we set context to control from the beginning. What is more important to you, that you can control the talent, or that they can get the job done? And this thing is a mindset and agility thing. If your organization is not yet agile and your leaders are not yet agile in their thinking to understand what is important for you right now as a business in competition, you need the best hands in the room to get the job done. It doesn't matter whether they resume at 8 and close at 5. It doesn't matter whether they work Monday to Friday. It doesn't matter whether you're seeing their faces in the office. Can they get the job done? And I think the reason why we still struggle with this concept is, to a very large extent, we still struggle with performance management as a big umbrella for why we will not be able to open up innovatively and adapt to agile ways of getting work done. We are still so traditional in our approach to performance management. To start with, objectives are not clear. They're not clearly set. KPIs are not clearly set. So the only KPI you have is that you come to work. And we just believe that work is getting done if people are at work. And that's why you believe those hours they are not at work, or when they are working from home, they are sleeping, or they are playing, or they are working for another employer. So it is a cycle of multiple. Some people need to mute their mics. Blessing, can you help me check that? Thank you. It is a cycle of multiple problems in one that shows up in this issue of not being open to gig workers or external workers, or what we call them. But the reality is, organizations that are open to this, why are they open? Because you have specialized skills, you have operational agility. So you have project-based needs or demands in your organization. You don't have to go and hire a full-time staff, a permanent staff to solve a temporary problem. I mean, it only makes sense to bring in a temporary staff to solve a temporary problem. Why would you want to take on overhead costs to fill a permanent staff for an issue that is time-bound, time-limited? But again, it goes back to OD in your organizational design and how you have structured your teams and how you have structured the work to be done. You are even unable to identify which work is temporary, which work is permanent. And I'm saying all this because we are layering to where the problems are so that we can know how to address or fix the problems. So if you're on this call in your organization, you still struggle with the mindset that gig workers are not for you in your line of business, maybe you want to check whether you have an open mind in terms of how you see work, and also in terms of how your organization is structured and the process you have in place. You want to check that and just be sure that you are not losing out on the gold that they are, the gem that they are. Gig workers, in some instances, you don't have to have 1,000 staff on your payroll, full-time payroll, if you don't need 1,000 staff on your full-time payroll. Sometimes you realize that you're saving a lot of money just having some roles being done by temp people, gig workers, because some jobs are seasonal, for example, or some jobs, they don't need full-time hours. So rather than hire somebody you're paying 800,000, if you hire somebody that is temporary, not your staff, and you're paying them 450K, and they're still getting the job done. Out of 40 hours in a week, they only need 20 to get the job done, but you are paying them for 40 hours, paying them for idle time, paying them to use your electricity, use your time to fulfill another person's job, when you could have just given them their contract work. Make them come 2 days in a week or 3 days in a week, or make them work from home as required, and then you pay less. But the problem is we are unable to. Sorry about that. So it's a lot of money you're also able to save. There's also speed to market. So this will come up when you have experts in a field, maybe on a retainer or an outsourcing basis. They already understand the markets. You're not struggling to staff people that understand the industry or the space that, for example, let me just use an example. When you hire marketing agencies to help you push your brand, to help you market your brand, you are hiring them because they understand the tools and the frameworks required to get to your customers or your consumers. When you hire HR consultants, to help you manage your recruitment or what have you, that's because they understand that market. Just giving examples, and I'll move on very quickly. Now, what are the types of external workforce you have, or extended workforce, or talent that you can't control? You have independent contractors. These are self-employed professionals that you hire for specific tasks. So you would have consultants that work for themselves. Gig workers are, most of the time you find them on platform-based workers. So you want to hire remote virtual assistants or executive assistants or graphic designers or video editors, what have you, they will fall in here. And then you have specialists that are brought in to solve strategic problems or provide experts guidance. Again, I read the meaning of consultant. Trust me, it's not beef. I just want us to do better with the way we position and with the way we represent the profession. Consultants are specialist advisors brought in to solve strategic problems or provide expert guidance. Now, a litmus check. When you have to go to AI to help you understand the answer to a problem your client is discussing with you, you are not a consultant. You are still learning work. But let's not look like I'm shading or dissing anybody. Let's just move. So the use of AI is supposed to help you crash time. For example, this slide was done with AI. I understand the concept I'm coming to teach, but I don't have to spend days building a deck to put my thoughts together. I can use AI with that. With or without this slide, if I wasn't sharing a slide, I can have a conversation with you for the next 3 hours on this subject. Why? I'm tapping from my experience. So I'm tapping from my knowledge and understanding of the concept of what we are teaching or what we are talking about. I won't go to AI to help me understand how to teach this topic. So that's the use. And I'm saying this because I see it a lot. I coach and mentor a lot of professionals, and I see the rave. A lot of people just want to consult. And I'm like, I wish they told you there's no money in this thing, no, like you people assume. Consultant, like when you hear a consultant, it looks like it's a very prestigious title, right? But maybe a lot of people assume that, oh, consultants are very rich. If I just use AI and all of that, but let's move away from that conversation. Again, what we're talking about is how we leverage people like consultants, gig workers, contractors, freelancers, agency staff, and what have you, to solve specific time-related problems. At the end of the day, all of these people you see on my screen, you don't have control over them. Why? Because they work for themselves, or they work for an external agency that has seconded them to you. In the case of independent contractors, consultants, and freelancers, most of the time they work for themselves. Gig workers will mostly be attributed or affiliated to a platform where you're hiring them and they just position them with you. So in that instance, control is shared between you as the client who needs the workers and the platform who has provided them to you. Now, control is limited in terms of how you can discipline, how you manage performance, how you set. So you own the expectations you're setting, but you might not, in many cases, own the consequence management. You might not own career development. You might not own 100% of their time and how you place a demand on that time. So that's how we talk about control. So just to break it down a bit more, independent contractors are project-based and they have a specific scope of work they're coming to do. They're always mostly self-employed and they have full autonomy over their methods and delivery. Yours is to tell them the problem and theirs is to come up with a solution. The how, the when, that they go about it, you necessarily do not have control over it. Freelancers are also project-based and they have multiple clients. So yours is if you are not clear on the specific deliverables you want them to deliver, you will struggle. Why? Because you won't be able to measure the work they're doing, and there will be that temptation there will be that trap of, oh, I'm paying so much, I'm not seeing value. I'm paying so much, I'm not seeing value. If you have not clearly defined work, and the reason we're talking about all of this is we're talking about managing these talents. So what performance, you start to look at control in the perspective of performance, engagement, and consequence management. Those are like the important three things. How do you define, measure, and manage performance, and even evaluate performance? That's one of the levers that we are looking at control from. How do you engage and manage the terms of reference? How do you have meetings? How do you request for meetings? How do you communicate? So in the engagement of the day-to-day work, how is work submitted? How is it delivered? In what communication, what are our communication pathways? What are the environments in which we are interacting? Control also comes in there. Now, when work is not being done, what are the consequences? Am I going to give you query? Or am I going to give you suspension? If money is missing, what is the way to go? These are things that control defines and is on the basis of who they are to you. And that's why the contractual interpretation, how we interpret the contract that you have with this person, goes a long way in ensuring that you're not doing things wrong. You're covered in the event that there's any litigation. You're also not contravening any laws or any governance practices in managing these employees, because what is talent management? Attraction, motivation, development, and consequence management, and even exits. Those are like the aspects of talent management, development as well. So when it comes to managing these talents that you can't control, how do you find them? How do you source them? How do you engage? How do you drive? How do you get work done? How do you manage performance? And how do you manage the administrative aspect of their work in terms of contracts? How do you manage consequence? How do you manage exit? And how do you develop? Those are things we'll look at in the coming slides. So you have freelancers, you have gig workers, you have consultants, and temporary staff. And each category demands a tailored engagement, performance, and compliance approach. One size fits all management cannot work when you have multiple types of talents in the room. One second. All right. Are we still good? Give me a yes, yes in the chat if we're still together. Give me a yes, yes in the chat. We've looked at this, so we won't touch more on it. Okay, thank you. I'm seeing your yeses. Thanks. Mr. Wilhelm Gifts. Hey, sis, I see you. Modokpe, trust you're doing well. Millicent, Grace Ann, Daniel, thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so we're moving on. There are 1.57 billion gig workers worldwide, and this number is growing according to World Bank research. According to McKinsey, 70% of executives expect external hiring to keep growing, and you have 3 times faster engagement than permanent workers. Another reason organizations use external talent, again, we've talked about agility, access to specialized workforce, flexibility in cost, you manage it, you save a lot of money in many cases when you use temporary workers or contract based workers than permanent. And there's also speed to deploy because they have expertise in certain areas. And then you open the room for innovation. Oh, and this is the best part of being a consultant and hiring consultants, working with consultants and being one myself. you have a lot of you are naturally open to a lot of thought and a lot of concepts because you work with multiple people, you're exposed to multiple environments. You are constantly researching. So that's the innovation that in many cases you would see that freelancers, gig workers bring to your workplace because they are not limited to just one employer. They're not limited to just you. In some cases, they're working across a particular sector. They know what works for each competition. So many times you would have no compete clauses and clauses that protect your organization from having the same person work for multiple competitors. But to a large extent, they have a very good understanding into the sector. Now, what is the role that we as HR have in this? Number one is it's important to define the workforce mix strategy. When you are designing your organization from an OD standpoint, how do you interpret what the business is trying to achieve? And how do you interpret the workforce required to bring that strategy or business objectives to life? That's the number one work that OD experts have. And if you're working in HR, you don't have an OD department, you are the OD. It means you're from a generalist angle. It's important for you to think through this. So in our organization, we sell pure water. What are we trying to achieve in the next 5 years as a pure water factory? Now, how do we break down the roles that are required for day-to-day work to be done in helping us achieve our strategic objectives? Which elements of these roles should be permanent? Which elements should be contract? Which elements do we not need to hire people? How much should we pay? That is organizational design. That's workforce planning, which is an element of organizational design. What is your workforce mix? How do you come to the conclusion of the roles that you need to have critical to your business? They must be full-time. That's a lot of work that goes into that. So when people just make light of our work as HR and they just reduce it to hiring and firing, sometimes we are the ones allowing it because we are not even taking the pain to do a thorough job as to showing these things in data, with insights, with case studies, with research that we've done, with deep thinking that we've applied to the organization that we support. We have not effectively positioned as strategic business partners that can clearly, on a day-to-day, analyze business problems and come up with people solutions to solve those problems. Am I communicating in this house? Am I communicating? So the first role we have in this conversation is in terms of design, organizational design and workforce planning. The second role is building a talent ecosystem that integrates internal and external workers. Now you have multiple talents or multiple types of workers, but there is no proper ecosystem that brings everyone together in a way that there are no duplication of roles, or there are no separation of roles or abandonment of roles, because that's another place we fail. We have consultants, we have gig workers, we have full-time staff, we have freelancers. Everybody is doing everything. There is no clarity between who is doing what and what you require from what. For example, a clear example is you have an HR head or an active HR department, and you have some consultants that you have a consultant working with your HR department on a talent management project or HR governance project or what have you. You have some HR freelancers, and you, at the end of the day, you are spending more because you have an HR team, you have another consulting team on retainer, and you have some freelancers. At the end of the day, they're all doing the same thing. Why? There is no clarity and clear separation of duties in a way that you can clearly see the money you are saving by bringing in consultants. Consultants have no business duplicating something that is being done in-house. Now, whilst I know that there are different types of consultants, you can have like a project-based function that your in-house person can't do alone. And then you just bring in a consultant to sort in that space. But some Consultants are on retainers. And for the life of me, I can't understand why you have a full-fledged HR team. For example, that's because that's my space. And you still have a consultant that is still on your payroll on a retainership basis. And you can't put a start and end to the work they are doing. And you can't clearly separate that this is the value that is being added. So you have not properly built a talent ecosystem for each of the divisions or departments or functions that you have in your organization. And you're not able to clearly see the value in having gig workers. And that's where failure starts. So the role of HR is to not just be able to have the right strategy, but when you're breaking down your talents and building your ecosystem, communication needs to be happening effectively. Stakeholder engagement needs to be happening effectively. Clarity of roles and responsibilities and division of labor, separation of duties, all needs to be clear in that talent ecosystem. Am I communicating? Someone give me a yes, yes, if I'm communicating. Own the governance and compliance frameworks for all worker types. Sometimes we relinquish our role, our management of contracts. We just relinquish it to the department and we don't know what's going on there. And that's what used to muzz me the most, like they say on social media. That one muzzes me because you're HR, you're responsible for employees, regardless of whether they're third party, they're freelance, I don't care what they are. You should still have a single source of truth as to who and who works for your organization, regardless of the type of contract they have. Sometimes in the very big organizations, HR will relinquish the management of certain staff to the department, and we don't know what's going on there. And the organization is spending so much money on these workers, and that's where you clearly always have duplication of roles and just overload of people. Even if you have 10,000 staff in your organization, it's still not an excuse to not have a proper structure for accounting for all of them and what they're doing. If you need to leverage data tools, leverage technology, leverage AI, leverage more people in your HR department, leverage what you can leverage. But no matter how large your organization is, the role of governance or compliance for employees based on their contract staff should not sit fully 100% with the department. It can be shared with HR, but you should still know what's going on. Who is being recruited? What contract are they being given? Guess what? When push comes to shove and there's a litigation case in court, they will not go to the HOD. Like, don't we get it? They would always, that's how they'll find their way to HR when the problem has. How many people can relate with this? Because of the kind of places I've been privileged to work, I see this all the time. There is always that temptation to just take headache off you. As you are taking headache off you, don't be surprised you're taking a lot of things off you as well. You're taking control, you're taking accountability, you're even taking peace of mind because you should be able to clearly say, we have 10,000 employees, we have 25 functional departments, and we know who and who and who are in every department. This department has 655 people. This department has 850 people. They are all accounted for based on the type of contract they have, the type of job they do, the department they sit in, and the value they add. Do we believe that it's possible to have this level of detail and this level of accountability or level of data on every staff we have, no matter how large? If you agree, put an I agree in the chat. If you don't agree, let's discuss it. I would love to hear practically, maybe in your organization, you have 25 staff, 25,000 staff, and you're saying, you know what, this is not possible. From my experience, it can't work. It's important for us to discuss it. I say a lot of I agree. Okay, thanks. If you don't agree, let's talk about it. But I think one of the major places we fail is we relinquish. Now, in terms of management, performance management, even learning and development in many, you can relinquish that to the department too. It is the management's job, it's the business leader's job to manage their staff. Defining performance objectives, yes, is the job of managers. Motivating staff, providing work tools is the job of managers. But governance on contract types and how that contract is managed, HR needs to own it. It can be shared, so you can have a shared responsibility with the department, but don't relinquish it fully. As long as this person identifies as a staff of your organization, whether full-time, permanent, internal, external, gig, contract, freelance, you have to have oversight on who they are and what they do. Now, another role that HR has is cultural integration. Ensure cultural integration and values alignment, because this is where a lot of gaps happen. You bring in external staff, you bring in gig workers, they come and dilute your culture. You don't even know, your culture doesn't have head, it doesn't have tail. Everybody's just doing what they like in the name of, I'm not your staff. I'm not your staff, but you're not my staff, but you identify with this organization. We are building something here. We are protecting something here. In your SOP, your no, SLAs, can I recommend that you start to have an element of behavioral codes in your SLAs, especially for people that will walk into your workplace and walk out of it. People that will use your tools, you will get them emails, you would have an office for them that they will sit in. To a large extent, they are not your staff, but there are some elements of your behavioral codes that must be respected. Even clients respect behavioral codes when they enter into your premises. How much more a gig worker that is collecting part of your salary? Like, am I making sense? Culture is a very important aspect of your business that you can't afford to lose control of just because you have external staff. But if you don't define it, you can't manage it. You can't enforce it. You can't monitor it because it's not even defined. You've not told them how we dress. I'm just giving an example of dressing, but behavioral code in terms of this is what we expect from you because you're affiliated with us. Now, that can be defined to the extent of what kind of contract exists, but that you can't just leave it open. And that is the role of HR. So very quickly, because of time, let's move. Now that speaking about compliance and legal frameworks, we come back here because the biggest problem is in classifying those roles, in knowing what to call them. Are you a freelancer? What does it mean to be a freelancer? Are you a consultant? What does it mean to be a consultant? Are you self-employed? What are your duties to me? What are my duties to you? Because employment contracts, as we know it, would always define the duties of the employer and duties of the employee. But in a case where this is not your full-time employee, how are you defining your duties to them and their duties to you? So the first test is, as we go back to the beginning, who controls how, when, and where work is done? Because what you call someone and how you classify their work has to follow all of these tests. Who controls? Who is defining where they will work? Are they the ones setting? There are some contractors, you pay them beginning of the month, otherwise no show. Some contractors, you pay them at the end of the month. Some contractors, you pay them at the middle. If you are paying me at the beginning of the month, best believe I'm not your staff. You're paying me to come and get work done for you. So in such person that you're paying ahead of the work to be done, it must show in how performance is also managed. How are they giving reports of the work that they're doing? There's nothing like you're withholding salary because obviously that person is not on the salary. Right? What are the economic realities of this organization? And is there ongoing commitment to offer and accept work by this employee or by this contract worker? So there are some contracts that the way the contract is set up, if you don't offer me work, it's believed that I'm not working. I don't owe you anything. If you continue to pay me, then you continue to pay me on your terms. So when you have a contract worker or a gig worker, the most important conversation is what is the type of contract this person has? And what are the terms set out in that contract? Because that's where a lot of things start to go. So when you say you are trying to manage talent you can't control, that concept means that the first thing you need to protect is defining the terms of engagement. You bring in gig workers, you don't give them SLAs, you don't give them terms of reference, and then you complain down the line that they are not getting work done. Something has failed from the beginning. You have not defined how, where, and you have not defined what, how, and where work should be done. So there are high chances that something will break along the line. And what are the consequences of this misclassifications? Again, is the worker's work integral to business operations? Can they send someone else to do the work? Did you hire the company or the staff? So if you hire a consulting company to consult for you, are you hiring a company that can send you any consultant any day? Or you're hiring an individual? All of these things, are they factored into your contract? Now, what are the consequences? Pardon me. So there are financial losses, there are legal penalties and fines, employment rights claim, reputational damage. The list goes on and on and on and on. Loss of intellectual property. If you don't properly guide through contractual terms and conditions, what who has control over what? A lot of your work is going out there. So in doing this, what are the important things that you must discuss? What is the scope of what I'm expected to do for you? Define what exactly is being delivered. What are the outcomes? Not just the activity. We have a 3-month project. By month 1, what should we expect to be delivered? By month 2, after 60 days, what should we expect to be delivered? These are things that must be clearly defined on paper and signed and agreed. Because many times we just bring in people, maybe because we're in a hurry or we know them, we ignore these governance practices. What's the duration of the work they're supposed to do, and how would that work be terminated? What are the payment terms? How do you manage confidentiality? How is this defined in their contract? Indemnity clauses and liability clauses, how are they all defined? Substitution clauses, who can replace these people if they ever have to be replaced or if they're not available to get work done. These things have to be defined to the letter, no matter how short your contract letter is going to be. Ensure that these things are properly defined. And that's the first step to being able to properly manage them. So we'll look at a few talent management functions in managing these gig workers, starting with sourcing and onboarding. So this is for businesses that are already clear on the fact that they need these gig workers for reasons I already explained earlier. So you've identified the need for them. Where do you find them? Staffing agencies, professional networks, platforms that provide their services. Are you going to go ahead and headhunt independent contractors to offer you fractional services? Do you want to go to a proper established consulting company and ask them to consult for you? And on that basis, they can send any consultants to get the work done. Do you want to hire them by yourself, like they're a direct employee, however, they are temporary? And this speaks to different creative ways contracts are designed. If you hire an independent contractor, that person is working for themselves. You are contracting them to offer services for you as a vendor. They are a vendor. If you hire a consulting firm, you are hiring the agency or the consulting firm. You are hiring the business. You are giving a contract to the business, not an individual. They can decide who and how they get the work done. In the same vein, you can have a direct employee. All direct employees don't have to be permanent employees or full-time employees. And this is where it gets creative and dicey. Someone can be a direct employee with you, but they are working with you on a temporary basis. they have a start and end time, or they have a part-time engagement contract with you. Are we getting these things? Hope we're not mixing them up. I'm trying to break them down as much as possible. So there are so many ways, depending on what your business needs and depending on the availability of the market available for the talent you're trying to hire. So when you give someone a temporary contract or a part-time contract, you define that, oh, you're only going to work with me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Thursdays and Fridays, you can do whatever you like with it. Work for whoever you like. Or you can say you're working with me Monday to Friday, but you're on a part-time contract to only work 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. After 12 p.m., I have no business calling you. You can go and work for any employer you want. You can employ somebody that is permanently on a night shift. They only work for you at night. They are part-time workers or they are temporary workers. These are different from outsourced agencies or freelancers that are not your staff or independent contractors. All of these things clearly have to be understood before then being able to now say, okay, oh, I have 6 different types of workers. What are the 6 different types of contracts that each of them would have? What are the 6 different performance management approach I would have to each of them? Because they're always going to be different. Do we understand? Are we following? Yeah, I'm just saying Mr. Wilhelm's comment. Governance on contracts and its management cannot be relinquished by HR. Absolutely. So in terms of the sourcing channels, who you need determines where you go to find them. I believe this one is clear. So from your suppliers, referrals, and what have you. Now, what are you evaluating in trying to source these people? They are not your full staff, but because they're involved in so many employment contracts, you want to be able to do your due diligence to ensure that it's not a case of what I ordered versus what I got. You're getting value for whatever investment. One second. Whatever investment you're making in these workers. Technical expertise has to be evaluated, depth of skill, cultural alignment, to what extent can we integrate? Can this person, adapt and integrate with our culture? Capacity, availability, commercial terms, and all of that, and get the right references. This is in the selection process. How are you onboarding? Some of your gig workers are going to be using your emails. Some of them are going to be using their own emails. Some of them don't have to use your work tools. Some of them will. So in the process of onboarding, there has to be a clear onboarding process that is not mirroring the same thing that you use for permanent staff. Because when you expect someone that is not your full-time employee to attend onboarding training physical for 5 days, you already started looking for trouble because, first of all, their contract does not say they will work with you for 5 days. And you can say, oh, our onboarding process is flat. Anybody, no matter how you are, no matter who you are, you will go through the onboarding process. Is that really realistic with what your business can work with in that time? Right? So these are things that as you onboard external workers, gig workers, contractors, number one, you pre-engagement checks, you verify, you do reference, you confirm. Then your access, orientation, clarity of roles, extremely, extremely important. You can't control or you don't have 100% autonomy or control over their time, but you have control over the expectations you have for them. It is on them to figure out the time they will use in delivering the work. But when the role is not clear, when you have not taken the time to clarify to the letter, provide clarity in objectives to be of work to be delivered, that's when it will give rise to you're not able to make sense of the time they spend at work or the time that they don't spend at work. I think the best approach that everyone can take is once you have clarity of roles and you already know that this person is not your full staff and you have terms of reference around the number of hours they spend on your project in a day or the number of days in a week that they spend on your project. The most important question after that is the work being done? Have the KPIs been defined to the point where I can clearly measure when I'm getting results versus when I'm not? Right? Are we good? Are we together? So moving away from onboarding and entering into performance management, I've already spoken to crystal clear deliverables. Because if those deliverables are not crystal clear, it would give room to a lot of what's the word now? Ambiguity and lack of clarity in the work that is being done. Replace activity-based expectations with specific measurable outcomes and define quality standards, formats, and acceptable criteria upfront. So KPIs, your gig workers can have KPIs. In fact, the most important tool or the most important assets they will have, the most important thing you can provide them with at the point of onboarding is their KPIs, so that you are not exerting so much energy in trying to control how work is done, but you have clarity on the expectation in terms of what, and not so much about the how, because control in that area is limited. So even when and if control is limited, outcomes can still be demanded, but it has to start with clarity of expectation of what those outcomes are to start with. Is it making sense? Are we still following the journey? I'm hoping that I'm not losing anyone's I'm not losing you, you're not losing me. We're able to understand ourselves, right? Just give me a thumbs up if you're still there with me. Okay, so relationship-based influence, rapport and trust is still important. This is not only for your full-time staff. Even if when you have freelancers or gig workers or temporary staff, you still need to be able to build a relationship, build rapport, so that managing the work can be a lot, less hostile. Then performance metrics, feedback without fear. Normalize direct, specific feedback. Let them know what is working and what is not. And address when you feel that they are not performing or when they're actually not performing, not when you feel. Address it on time. You don't wait for the contract to end and say, oh, so we're not renewing your contract because this, da, da, da. It's important to communicate early so that they even have the chance of rectifying these issues before, they fester for too long. What are the success metrics in the contract? Track them against milestones. When things go wrong and you're trying to manage underperformance, identify and document the gaps. Very important. Have conversations around the gaps you've observed. And then if you need to make it formal, let there be remediation. Remediation in terms of talk it out. What are the expectations? Where were the failures observed? And what can be done to salvage this, if possible? Speaking about culture, external workers, they deserve inclusion too. So when you're talking about your DEI campaigns and your DEI strategy, you want to ensure that your DEI does not only focus on when people are full-time staff or when they're a particular discipline or a particular gender. Everyone needs to be included. And that's where you know that even as an organization, your inclusion strategy is very strong because you're even able to identify ways that you can get people who are not full staff part of the fund that is happening or part of the growth that is happening to your organization. And the challenge with inclusion is that external workers, they feel like second class. Oh, we are not part of of course, they have a different type of contract, but it's important to find a way to still able to reach out to them regardless. So when there's exclusion from meetings, decisions, recognition process, decision making, key activities that make everyone feel like they're part of the company, when you have people who are excluded from these things, it doesn't create a balance. There will be that imbalance in, oh, they demand work from us, they expect solutions to problems from us, but when it comes to carrying everybody along in the organization, they feel excluded. And these are real feedback that I've received in my line of work, in the organizations that I've worked. Pardon me? So because of time, I want to move past this. How do you build your total talent strategy? I talked about workforce planning at the beginning, which is a heavy element of organizational design. So I'll take it from your organizational design, what you have defined in terms of the identity of your organization, the different structural pillars it would operate on. What are the important roles that are critical to these business operations? And how do I build the talent ecosystem in terms in a way that all the types of workers that I have, they have a clear role to play, and everyone is clear on the role that they play. So organizational design, workforce planning would go into governance and policy as we've established. We've talked about governance and policy in terms of what are the types of contracts you create to manage these people and the work that they do. Policies that cover all worker types, how you source them, how you get them on board, how you manage performance. You should have policies for them as well, so that as they are giving you their SLA, they're also collecting your own gig workers handbook. How many people have a gig workers handbook in their organization, or your employee handbook has a column for gig workers? That's an important thing to have. Freelancers, consultants, they would always give you their SLA. Be ready to give them your own terms of engagement, terms of reference, so that they can respect it and so that they can be bounded by it or bound by it. And then technology should not be disintegrated. For organizations that have ERPs, this is an important thing. You find a way to ensure that the same one single source of truth is where everybody is logging into to speak to their different functions in the organization. And then analytics is also an important part of your talent strategy. How do you define the data and gather data and analyze and report data of these workers, the kind of work they do, and the problems they solve for your organization? Very quickly, as we start to wrap up, I think I have 5 minutes left. What are the tools, technology, and governance frameworks that you have in place to manage these things, to manage these people and the work that they do? What is your vendor management system looking like? We underestimate this thing a lot, and it causes us a lot of problems. Invest in a vendor management system, especially if you have a lot of gig workers or freelancers. Have a single source of truth to manage all your vendors. Yes, they offer different types of contracts, but there should be uniformity. Even if it's in your letters, in your or in your offer letters, in your disciplinary documents or policy documents, pardon me, not disciplinary documents, in your gig workers handbook, there should be uniformity, there should be consistency in the way that is managed. Freelance management system, your HRIS should be able to capture that segment of workers. Now, this is an interesting topic because many times what we have is our HRIS most of the time, because a lot of people use the known names. Only your full-time employees are on your HRIS. and your contract workers are not even there at all. I think a better approach would be that you capture them on the HRIS, but you are clearly able to tell the category of their employment from that HRIS. Because if a single source of truth is telling you have 10,000 and only 3,500 are full-time employees, the remaining 6,500, who is accountable to them? Who is reporting that number? Who is watching and following that number? So I think that's an important piece to managing data. Because if you don't know them, if you don't know who they are, if you don't even have any data on them, decision making will be tough because you don't have a single source of truth around who are your external workers. Now, some key metrics to track, since we're speaking to analytics, total external workforce spend as a percentage of labor cost. Another one is total external workforce spend versus internal workforce spend. I like this a lot. Because the general concept of external workers is that in many cases, they save costs. These people are working for other other employers. So they are not your full staff, and that's why you can pay less. If you check the data and you see that the external workforce are less than the internal workforce, and they are still earning more on the average, there is something you need to check. Because if they're not helping you reduce cost, if the cost of bringing them on is more than the cost you have for a full-time staff, then what's the trade-off? And I understand that, yes, in some cases or in many cases, it is the expertise you are hiring. If you were to hire that expertise, you spend a lot more. Are we still together? So I'm wrapping up. Key metrics, how do you check contractor to permanent ratio by department? Very important metric to track. Compliance rates, how often do they sign? How ensure that you have signed documents on file. Are these being noted? Contractual tenure versus project duration. This is one place where there's a lot of governance gaps. So you have a 6-month project. By all parameters, this thing has been defined as a 6-month project. But 18 months later, this contractor is still with you. They're not just with you, they're collecting money every month. Something is going on. Pardon me. Yeah, so this is one area that I see a lot of, even from experience. If a project has been defined as 6 months or 4 months or 3 months, who is checking and monitoring that the milestones that have been defined when that project was launched, they're being followed? Because why do you have a consultant that is still working 1 year after on a project that was defined as 6 months? And in some very terrible cases, they're still being paid. Who is responsible for that project dragging? What are the consequences of the project dragging? Who is making up for that lost money by the project dragging? Has anyone experienced this? Because this is something we do not pay attention to. And we find that it happens a lot of times. Misclassification, yeah. So if there have been any cases of misclassification at any point, it needs to be checked. If any issues arise, maybe conflict, or there's a grievance that arises because a contractor was not properly classified. So I'm wrapping up now. What are we taking away from here? The external workforce, they're an extremely strategic asset. In some cases, you don't even have a choice because in your line of business or in the sector that your organization plays in, that's the only type of workers you can have. Or they will form the large percentage of your workforce. For example, in the tech space or fintech space or creative space or even telecoms, you have these experts who are not willing to work for just you. So sometimes you don't even have a choice. You have to use them. But in some cases, you have a choice You just choose to leverage them as assets that would suit your objective or your strategic goal as an organization at that time. So HR has to lead the strategy, governance, and culture around managing these external talents. Don't leave them for your line managers alone to handle, right? So many times we just hand it off to between procurement and the departments, and we're not involved because it's extra work. Yes, absolutely, it's extra work. As long as someone qualifies as a service provider, HR has to have a part in, understanding, interpreting, administering, and managing the contractual engagement. Okay. When there are classification errors is a big risk on HR. So it's important to clearly be able to understand and define the job classifications you have or the workers classifications you have. And contracts are important. Performance management is an important element. Inclusion is very key. And HR has a lot of parts to play in that. I'm just, because of time, I'm just going to rush through to this last bit. In terms of taking action, it is important to understand the competitive landscape of your organization, because many times what you have is your competitors are making use of these type of workers, but you're either not aware or you just haven't woken up to that reality or you've not accepted it. It's important to use engagement in driving this. Now, to a very large extent, you are not pursuing retention because, again, you have limited time. They are with you for a specific time. But how you engage and manage in that phase of time, in that period, is extremely important to the success of the project that they're doing with you. Performance requires specific, detailed, frameworks around how are you defining objectives that are to be met? How are you defining the way work should be done? And compliance is a non-negotiable. Culture is also something you need to pay attention to. And I'll end with this quote: the future belongs to organizations that can build cohesive, high-performing team from talents that they do not directly control. And I'll go back to that question I asked at the beginning. Who is holding the remote control? And how does this matter? How does this impact or affect the way that the problems in your organization still get solved regardless? Work is still being defined, and people are still delivering according to the roles that they are given. Thank you so much. I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the fantastic session. Can we please give her emojis online, our audience? Please, can we give our emojis a round of applause for our speaker for tonight? Thank you so much for doing great justice to the topic. Thank you so much, ma. We're really blessed this
Thank
night
you.
for this wonderful teaching. Please let your emojis keep rolling in. Keep rolling in for our speaker. Thank you so much. Please, thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. So we appreciate it for tonight. Thank you for allowing us to draw from your wealth of knowledge. It was an amazing and an opening session. Please, we have question for our speaker for tonight before she leaves. First. Any question, contribution, comments, anybody? Okay, I'm looking at chat, but okay, no.
No, there
Okay,
is
the
two
answer
people
is
raise their hands.
okay.
People
That
raise their
means
hands.
she really did. Okay,
People raise their hands. There is
okay, two people.
Motope.
Okay. For my Mr. Larry, are you speaking?
Yes, I said two people raise their hands. Motope, then
Yes. I'm
Ebenezer.
still there. All right, no problem. Okay, Modokpe. Is it Modokpe? Can you please go ahead? Then after we'll take Ebenezer. Thank you.
Hello,
Please
Mo
unmute
Sweet, you have the
yourself and
floor.
speak.
Thank
Have I
you.
stopped? Please confirm if I've stopped sharing. Have I stopped
You have
sharing?
stopped sharing. You have
Okay.
stopped
Yes,
sharing.
you have stopped
All
sharing
right.
now.
It's only your beautiful face we can see now. Thank you, Omotola. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for putting this together, the L&D team. I just wanted to add just few points. I know we are pressed for time. One of the points that I am leveraging on from what our speaker has shared today is when he talks about, because somebody is a gig worker or is a contingent employee in your organization, they bring different kind of culture because nothing is defined. I have the privilege of working in an organization with over 18,000 employees, and we have a lot of contingent workers. We have a lot of SLA workers, and we have a lot of seasonal workers. We only hire some people during summer. We only hire some people during winter. But the good thing about all of these people is they are binded by our work culture, our code of conduct, our ethics, our respectful workplace, our EDIB. Even if you are working as a contractor, like you are a third-party contractor, you are bind. Everything is the same. Our culture is the same. You're expected to take all the training for code of conduct, respectful work behavior, ethics, inclusion, all of those training. We have made it so easy and flexible. I know it may be a far-fetched from our reality, but the thing is, these things are still very obtainable and achievable. Whoever you are hiring, whoever is supporting your team, 2 months, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 years, 18 months, let that be ingrained in the culture of the organization, that there are some things we cannot compromise on because you are representing this organization at this period. So I think I need to just reemphasize that because I see it and it's working and it's very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so we'll take Ebenezer. Ebenezer, please, the floor is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Doctor. Good evening and good evening, very wonderful moderator. Blessings. My name is Ebenezer. I would like to just seek the guest speaker's advice. She mentioned HR risk in terms of workforce management. So two questions or two, just to request your guidance on two issues. Number one, there's a company I joined some times ago that I discovered that one of the existing staff, right, and a driver, right, and took over by employing janitors for the company, him and his wife, supplying the company janitors. And when I requested to know further, they said the company that was supplying them janitors actually quitted, and that's why him and his wife formed that kind of relationship, and they were beginning to supply the company janitors. Right? When I heard that, I stopped immediately, and I started employing janitors by myself. All right, by myself for the organization. It saved me almost 50% of the money we were using, the company was using to get janitors in. So I want to know, are there some risk around that, and how can I can now shield the company, and how can I tidy that recruitment up, right? Or that model of recruitment up. And the second one is that the business I work for, right? Our business model requires a number of support staff because we use them temporarily. Sometimes some of them are IT, some of them are support staff, some of them are NYC, some of them are students, some of them students that are still in between the job and the rest. And in terms of workforce and distributions, almost 85% of our workforce are support staff model, right? And of course, is there anything I need to really pay attention to in managing them in terms of human resource risk? Of course, there was a time I introduced emergency medical support for them if they are at the site and there's situation that warrant medical attention. They can go to the nearby hospital, which we made arrangement for, and it has been superb. And there's no, identify risk or challenge at this point. I just want to know, attending this section, got me thinking, is there anything I need to pay more attention, right, to, and the rest? Although the signed document, we give them support staff an handbook, offer letter, ID card, all of those things when they come in. Those are the two areas I will seek your guidance. Thank again for the
All
section,
right. Yeah.
Doctor.
First of all, are these this support staff, are they outsourced to an outsourced employer, or are they directly employed by you?
Directly employed by the business.
When you say the business, that's the departments. They are not managed by HR, right? Is that what you're saying?
Directly, employed by the company. By the company is a
When I
different
say
model we
you,
use.
I'm referring to you as the employer. Your
Yes,
HR,
yes,
you are
yes,
the employer.
yes,
They are directly
yes.
employed by you. And they are cleaners, drivers, support staff. Is there a reason you don't have outsourced employer agencies handling this for you? Is there a specific reason? 'Cause I know that's what we generally obtain. Is there a reason that you directly employ them?
So let me quickly mention, man, right?
Yeah.
The janitors are even different from the support staff, to say that.
Okay.
So our business model use majorly support staff because the job we do for our clients are temporary job,
Oh,
right?
you
3
are an
months, 4
agency
months.
yourself.
Yes, the company,
Oh,
our company, we are not an outsourcing company, but we employ them directly
I
to do some
understand.
outsourced work
You
for us. When they are
provide
done, they go.
service, you're a
Yes,
service provider to your clients.
yes,
Okay, so
yes.
definitely they'll be directly employed by you. Yeah, so to your first question, your driver and his wife clearly saw a gap that they just took advantage of that gap. There was a governance gap there. There's a control, compliance and control gap. So whoever is your vendor management, it should be a structured process. And sometimes we overstructure it when we leave it for procurement and the vendor management team. So yes, structure is important, but HR still has to be involved in that structuring. Who does due diligence on how your vendors are sourced and managed? There should be a vendor management policy, a vendor management process, a vendor management system taking care of that. And it should be a shared responsibility between procurement majorly, who would have the administrative, or we ensure they are paid. Yours, the bit HR is involved in is just knowing who they are, just ensuring that the governance process was followed, and just being able to account for the work that they do, getting feedback about their work and all of that. So your driver and his wife just took advantage of the fact that there was no clear-cut structure that speaks to conflict of interest or due diligence in sourcing vendors. And that should be, if you have that in place, it will take care of such a thing, because for all you care, it might still be happening. The fact that you found this one out doesn't mean somebody else somewhere is not giving contracts to their family member. It just speaks to corporate governance and how we put compliance and control processes in place. That's your first question. To your second question, around what generally should you look out for? I think the biggest one there is litigation, the risk of litigation in how you sanction and how you terminate, in ensuring that your documentation is still watertight. It doesn't matter if the salary is 20,000 naira. First of all, you shouldn't be paying 20K because of minimum wage. If you're paying, the lowest paid staff should still have proper documentation in place. And we overlook these things. It doesn't have to do with their qualification. It doesn't have to do with the salary they paid or the work they do. Nobody's work is superior in the eyes of the law. As long as they are your workers or their staff, they are your staff. It doesn't matter if they are the CFO or the cleaner. So what are the documentation in place covering the kind of contract they have with you? Because guess what? If that person should, let me speak broken, should buy in your premises, is a human being, human life. The same laws of the land would apply for that person in the court of law. So we often overlook these junior people, and we don't pay attention to their contract. We would do so much serere and so much sorry for using the word serere. We would do so much process and so much complicated work to bring in senior hires. But when we want to hire cleaners, we can just use word of mouth to tell them the salary is 45K, resume tomorrow. Those things are big risks that you're exposing yourself to, because if anything should ever happen that will bring up litigation, in the eyes of the law, it doesn't matter who they are, what they do. So the first thing you want to ensure is you have clear documentation that covers the contractual engagements these workers have with you, their offer letter, their job description, their KPIs, how do you agree salary, and how is salary being paid, all of those things. Another risk is in terms of performance management. Sometimes you hire a cleaner and you just believe your work is simple, go and do it. There's no supervision. And when is that open-ended, you are not able to manage or control behaviors. So when we're talking of performance at the highest level, performance should be driven at the highest level regardless of who it is. So the same way you would give a JD to a senior person is the same way, even if the person cannot read and write, there's something that documents that this is the work this person is required to do. Even if they can't read the document, somebody should use mouth to tell them. And there should be some form of acceptance around, oh, this is my work. I mean, I'm just using, cleaners as an example, but highly in terms of documentation, in terms of how you manage culture, your codes, your behavioral codes should be properly communicated to them. What you define as culture should be properly communicated. So when you don't communicate these things, you leave your culture very porous. Your work environment is very porous because people just do things anyhow, wishy-washy. There is no standard. Nobody's upholding any standards of behavior because these are young people. No, it shouldn't be. And it's not even just the uneducated ones, even NYSC, IT students, as long as they enter in, and that's why I love the angle Modope came in. And it's not always about the numbers. What you will do when you have 10 employees, you should still be able to do it when you have 10,000 employees. It's just scale. It's about scale and what you're leveraging, technology, more people, but just ensure that the right thing is being done, regardless of who it is. As long as they're your worker, bound by whatever type of contract, there should be certain things that would apply in terms of culture, in terms of behaviors, in terms of performance management, and in terms of governance and documentation. I hope this helps.
Thank you so much, Ma. Mr. Ebenezer, I'm sure that helps. Okay, because of our time tonight, Mr. Olainka, you've been raising up your hand, but our time is fast spent. I don't know if you can just, in few seconds, I don't know if it's a contribution or a question, just few seconds.
Thanks for
Hello,
the
Mr.
response.
Olainka. Just few seconds, please, because of our time. Are you there? Please unmute yourself and speak. Hello? Oh, I
You can
think.
wave it. You can wave it. She's not speaking.
What is it, sir?
You
Good
can
evening,
wave it.
everyone.
He's not speaking.
Okay, yes. Okay, so since is not speaking. All right, once again,
I'm
thank you so
speaking.
much, Ma, for the great insight, and thank you so much for allowing us to learn from your wealth of knowledge this evening. Okay, to give us the vote of thanks, I want to invite Mr. Olariwaju. He's Director for Learning and Capacity Development. Mr. Olariwaju, please give us the vote of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good day, everyone. confirm you can hear me.
Yes,
Can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Yes, we
Okay.
can. We can.
Well, if not for network, yes, when I say you network now, I'm not referring to internet network, but I wouldn't know how we'll be able to have this opportunity like this on a platter of gold. I want to believe in is the HR community that has given us this privilege, and we're not taking it for granted. That's the truth. I quite understand if we have to pay for this, what is it going to cost us in terms of money, for your time, for your energy, everything. And we are so grateful on behalf of the leadership of AHRP. We want to say thank you. For me, even at my level, I picked some things that I noted there, and I want to believe a lot of people have picked a lot of things, and it's just the right topic for the right time. I want to say thank you for the opportunity that you have to share your knowledge with us, and we're not taking it for granted. God bless you. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Wilhelm. Thank you so much, AHR team and leadership, for having me. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to spend my evening with you. Thank you.
Bless you. Yeah. So over to you, Blessing.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Once again, thank you, Dr. Omotola, for the teaching this night, and thank you for honoring our invitation. So with this, we've come to the end of tonight's learning section, and please, a very important announcement.